Welcome to the Consultancy Edge. I'm your host, Matt Hodkinson, and this week I speak with consultancy growth expert Marcia Marini. We talked about her journey, growing her health consultancy from scratch to a £20 million valuation within 7 years. How she then became the first female executive leader at the acquiring company Mott MacDonald Group, and the challenges that she faced in that role. We also discuss how boutiques can win against the big boys. So without further ado, let's have my interview with Marcia Marini. Welcome to the Consultancy Edge, Marcia Marini. Hello.
Oh, hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. I've been looking to do this for a very long time. I've been really looking forward to it because you've got quite a unique and impressive story that I think many, many people will want to hear more about. And as I mentioned in the introduction, of course, you grew your own health consultancy from 0 to 20 million in the space of 7 years before selling to MMG. Can I ask, was there a particular sort of turning point or a point in the growth journey of that business where you really felt there was an uptick and where you thought, yeah, this is something that we've done for the better?
Yes, absolutely. And that point was when we started our board in the company. I was very lucky to have found an amazing mentor who held my hand from the beginning and taught me so many things that if she hadn't, we wouldn't have started as well as we did. And she was the one that recommended that we started a board. And the board brought us a discipline that we didn't have before. We just needed to operate in a much more structured way, in a much more planned way. We were challenged, we were supported in a way that we hadn't been before. And it made a tremendous difference to the business.
That's wonderful. And what was the makeup of the leadership at that time when you grew that board?
We were a young bunch. Most of my leaders joined the business as recent graduates and grew with the business, including myself. It's fair to say I was growing as we were doing. We obviously recruited senior technical specialists, health consultants. But in terms of who ran the marketing and sales, who ran the project management, who ran finance, etc., we were a very young bunch altogether. Learning together, motivating each other tremendously. There was something about the youth and the energy that I don't think you can replace. It made a huge difference to us to then bringing a few gray-haired, more experienced people to our board and work together with them, really mix all that experience with all that energy. Real good recipe.
I think that is something that's coming up more and more often, is getting the right team dynamics, of course, the right mix. And we recently did an episode where we were speaking about the benefits of hiring those in Gen Z, for example, who have a very different sort of expectation about what work is. But you talk about obviously marrying that with the experiences of the grey hairs, and that's great for me. But of course, I guess it is about maintaining energy as well, isn't it, in business? That is important.
Yes, yes. And it's not easy because growing a business is not easy. We know that. It's constant challenge, isn't it? It's just what is the next one? It's not like things are completely fine for a period of time. You just move from one thing to another. If it's not firefighting, it's trying to bring opportunities, create new things, and so on.
Marcia, I want to ask you about the sale of that business, your health consultancy. Of course, I mean, over the course of 7 years, you grew that to a huge valuation. Was it always your intention to build to sell? Was that your kind of design for the business?
No, not at all. And to be clear, I was not the founder of that business. I joined that business at startup stage. I was the CEO and I was a partner in the business, but I did it with two health professionals, and they were much older than me. So that complementarity of ages starts from there anyway. And they were technicians, they were health systems strengthening professionals. And I had a very commercial mind, a very business mind. So no, not at all. We didn't set up to grow and sell. We set up to make a difference to the world. We were working governments of very poor countries to create their health systems, to develop, to strengthen their health systems. And that was the mission. We were extremely successful. We made good money out of it, and we grew very, very fast. Perhaps too fast at the time. We were relatively naive. We took risks that nowadays I don't think I would take, but we were also lucky. We also succeeded. But we got to a point in our journey where my two partners were older. They wanted to capitalize. The business was valuable. And, in growing SMEs, you are always reinvesting the money. So it's hard to take meaningful money out. So we had two choices. We could stop growing or try to control growth and take money out, or continue to invest and grow. And we always chose to continue to invest and grow. And in doing so, took less money out year on year. And at one point, we decided, hang on, we're taking more and more risk on something that is quite valuable. So the decision to sell came then. It was mostly to support the partner's retirement. So I led the sale of the business. I found some very decent buyers for us. We obviously appointed an M&A advisor who helped us, found some decent buyers, chose one that felt right, that culturally would fit well with us. And pretty much I took my team into Mott MacDonald Group, which is a large engineering firm. They were 15,000 people at the time. We were new kids coming and joining this huge engineering firm, and we are health professionals. So we were quite different. I am of the opinion that being different is good. So I capitalized a lot on that. Inside Mott MacDonald, I was the first female, non-engineer, non-British, etc., top leader in the organization. So we were 9 leaders, and I was one of them. So I was very different. And that worked for me and for my team well. Yeah.
I did want to ask you about that because, yeah, as you say, you were the first female executive leader at Mott MacDonald Group, if my information is correct. What challenges did you face breaking, the usual barriers within that organization? How did you navigate that?
Yes, well, I'm well used to breaking the barriers. I was born in Brazil. I'm Latin American. Here I am in Europe succeeding. So it was just another one. Mott MacDonald is an extremely decent organization. It's good at its heart. And we were welcomed very openly and well supported. So, I mean, I sat on the top table. I was one of the top executives, but my unit inside Mott MacDonald never got bigger than 80 million, of revenues, whilst my colleagues around the table, their units were all like 300 million, 500 million. Okay, so I was but I had so much support. I had the fact that I was different counted in my favor. I used it in my favor in a nice way. I was invited to almost every initiative Mott MacDonald took. For example, we decided we would invest a lot of money getting Cranfield to help us develop our leaders, but we wanted to go for the mass leaders in the middle of the organization, the middle management. And so I was at the forefront of developing that program with Cranfield because I was different. So every initiative, because I was different, I got invited to, and I loved it. And because we called attention to ourselves as being different, also because we were from a new sector for Mott MacDonald. A lot of people were interested to partner with us, talk to us, open doors to us, etc. So it was a very positive experience.
Amazing. And I mean, expanding on that, of course, you spent time at PwC as well. You've been part of Mott MacDonald, but also you've been part of that startup mode as well. What are some of the sort of key observations that you've made about the differences within large consultancies, large organizations, and those smaller boutiques? Because my perception is there's a lot of power with the boutiques right now. They've got the ability to disrupt and make a big difference. What's been your observations on that?
Yeah, I want to bring one more experience I have into this discussion, which is with a firm called WIG, which coincidentally is also an engineering firm. And WIG was acquired by a much larger American Tetra Tech engineering firm. But I went straight from Mott MacDonald. So I decided after 5 years to leave Mott MacDonald to have my kids, had my kids. And when I was ready to go back to work, I did other things. Okay. So one of the things I did was work with PwC and sit on the board of WIG. WIG was a 2,000 people organization, PLC, and the contrast between the three was really amazing. Mott MacDonald is staff owned, is every decision you make is long term. Everything is about thinking about the future. What does this mean? It's not about rushing to achieve anything, it's about long term thinking. Sometimes too much that way. WIG PLC much more about the share price, and we need to make the decisions today that impact the share price tomorrow. So very interesting. And in the middle, PwC, but all of them very professional outfits. And I learned so much with all my colleagues in all these organizations.
And I mean, you mentioned that particular acquisition as well. You've been involved in, am I right in saying 15 M&A transactions in your time, Marcia? Which is incredible.
Yes.
What again, some of your observations, but perhaps what are the stark differences you see when there is a successful acquisition versus perhaps those that do suffer along the way? For example, have you been a part of a transaction that perhaps didn't go as planned?
Do you mean post-acquisition?
Yeah, I guess with integration, perhaps some challenges were unforeseen.
Yeah.
Has anything not gone as smoothly as you'd hoped?
Yeah, so my experience, I actually have been involved in 18 M&A transactions now. First of all, my health consultancy that I sold to Mott MacDonald. Then inside Mott MacDonald, I did a few acquisitions. And after I left, I have helped my many clients, some of them growing to sell their businesses to complete the transaction. Yeah. So I have been on the shoes, but I have also supported transactions to happen. Yes, I have seen all sorts of things. I have seen things go extremely well and go extremely bad. I have seen beautiful teams fall apart post-integration with a major buyer. Equally, I have seen beautiful things coming out of integration. I like to use this example. The person that was my personal assistant in my health consultancy before we joined Mott MacDonald went on to develop a really beautiful career inside Mott MacDonald. And by the time she recently retired, she was in charge of a 200 million Department of Health contract. Okay. I mean, talk about the level of opportunity that an integration can bring to staff generally. But I think when you're selling a business, looking at the numbers, the valuation is important, but looking well beyond that, because the numbers you can negotiate, but the cultural alignment you can't. So really being choosy on your buyer is very important. Yes, I have seen a lot of things go right and wrong.
Yeah, I'm guessing that people integration is, that is chief among everything when it comes to a successful acquisition, looking for that cultural fit, which can, of course, be a challenge, can't it? What, and you mentioned, you touched on the fact that, of course, now you advise a lot of boutique consultancies, Marcia, which must be incredibly rewarding for you. And I've seen you in action, and I've heard from our shared clients just what a fantastic experience that's been for them. What are some of your qualities do you think that you bring to that? And perhaps based on your experiences in those organizations that we've spoken about, what are your key leadership principles that you've carried forward into your advisory roles now?
Mm-hmm. What you see is what you get. Modesty, always learning, always learning. I tend not to make the same mistake more than once or twice. But I think respect, serving leadership. I mean, this is what I was at my health consultancy, and this is what I inspire other leaders to be. They're not there to be on top of everyone. They're there to facilitate, to support, to help everyone to succeed. I believe in honest relationships in all senses, where we have the difficult conversations when we have to have. And apart from that, we have a good, happy life together. And I think inspiring long-term relationships in any relationship you have, including when you are in leadership, is really important. So I always looked after my people. They were always at the top of my mind. What am I going to do with this person who is dying for a career and there's nowhere for them to go here? And part of growing a business and then selling was all about that. We were in a machinery where to provide career opportunities, you have to continue to grow. And the more you grow, the riskier it becomes a standalone. And how do you provide career for everybody? So it's a bit of a consequence too. But I have come across amazing leaders that inspired me in my own career. I equally worked with one really bad leader from whom I always say I learned more than from anyone else. How not to lead the people, how not to manage. And sometimes you learn more that way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a painful but valuable experience, isn't it? For sure. Yeah, I think many of us have had that sort of experience, I'm sure. I think there's a key lesson in amongst all of that, Marcia, around that long-term view, because I know that many consultancies have perhaps had to make some very short-term decisions in recent times. Not ideal, but a consequence of situations economically and for other reasons as well. But would you encourage people to always have that long-term view, to look beyond the current, the here and now, and perhaps to be more risk-taking in their consultancy? What's your view on that?
Well, absolutely. Well, it depends. If you want to grow a business, it's not going to be risk-free. So absolutely risk-taking. You have to live with risk. You have to understand risk. You have to mitigate. You have to, etc. But you have to live with risk. Otherwise, you can't be an entrepreneur who grows a business. Yes, I am a believer in long-term thinking, long-term decisions, long-term relationships. It's what has helped me to succeed. I mean, today I still have a good dozen people that if I wanted to start up another business, I could have an HR director, finance director, a marketing, everyone, they would love to come and work with me because I look after them still today. In fact, one of them now is looking for an opportunity, and I'm determined that I'm going to find a great opportunity for him. And I think loyalty in business is so important. Loyalty with your employees, loyalty amongst your peers, loyalty with your partners. And one of the things that I know made a huge difference for my company was a very loyal relationship I established with a few firms that became very close alliance to us. And together, and I'm very proud to say I led that alliance. I put the group together. I made us achieve great things together. And the secret to that alliance was just being open, honest, and genuinely trying to build something that will last long term. And it's win-win for everybody. Nobody trying to screw the other. Let's genuinely trying to help each other achieve. And we did, yes.
That's absolutely how it should be, isn't it? Let's face it. Marcia, you and I have both been involved in the Consultancy Growth Network. A lot of our listeners will be familiar with the network, perhaps benefited from it over the years. Now you get that touch point, don't you, with all of those boutique consultancies. And we look at the bench press report, of course, which comes out every year, and we see those trends in the industry. What are some of the trends that you're noticing right now that consultancies really should be paying attention to?
I think we are all seeing more and more professionals leaving their big jobs in consultancies and setting up their own boutique firms. So generally, I feel the space is becoming more and more competitive. There's a lot of boutique firms out there. I think this is good and bad because it makes everybody behave and be mindful of the competition and continue to grow and so on. But there is a danger that those that don't sharpen their pencil don't survive. I'm also seeing more and more on the firms that I work with and those that I do strategic reviews and so on that you know well about. There's a real change on clients being open to a more strategic relationship with boutique firms. And sometimes we need to be the ones that are putting that on the table. Instead of this and that, why don't we think we could be together for 3 years? And what would those 3 years look like? And what we're finding is clients are more and more open to that, because I think, and I am talking particularly about the private sector and larger corporations, they've been burned, they've bought from consultancies that didn't deliver. They thought it was going to be cheaper, turned out to be more expensive. So one thing I'm doing with all the firms I work with is incentivizing colleagues to have those conversations with clients about let's operate in a more win-win relationship and talk very openly about our vulnerabilities as a boutique. You give us a contract of $500,000, but you could take it away in 3 months' time. And where do we stand? So let's show mutual loyalty and mutual benefit here. I think talent shortage remains a problem, good talent shortage. And being creative, using technology, being creative where you recruit, being open to where people are located, how they work, it's got to be the thing to do. And I do think you can grow a lot people in-house. And I think we tend to overlook in-house and look externally for talent. when we could spend more time skilling up the people that we have and helping them to succeed, particularly those with the potential for it.
Yeah, and of course leveraging your people as well to refer you into talent pools as well, because we don't often ask around who do you know who might be a great fit. And as we know, it's about attitude more than it is about skill set quite a lot of the time. If you get the right people, you can often teach them what needs to be taught. Marcia, I want to pick up on the whole boutique. One of the recurring trends I see is that a lot of the boutiques have their eyes diverted towards the big four, the big six, however many there are nowadays, but you know the ones we're talking about, the big consultancies of the world. And they do find themselves often in a competitive situation against them, and perhaps have a bit of the imposter syndrome perhaps creeping in when they're in that competitive situation. Do you feel like the agility that comes with being a boutique, the specialism aspect as well, do you think they are badges of honor that these boutiques should be putting more to the fore, that they have a bigger presence, a bigger part to play against those big boys?
Oh, no doubt whatsoever. No doubt whatsoever. Including because so many boutique founders come from the big firms anyway. And I find it really interesting because sometimes I'm working with someone that came from one of the big consultancies, and when, for example, you're talking about pricing, and they say, "Well, what can't possibly charge that much?" And I said, "What is your fee? What was your fee when you were in that consultancy?" "Oh, but I'm not there." So what I tend to share, or my experience is, in a boutique, we have equally good people if we are a decent boutique. In a boutique, what you see is what you get. Yeah. I do the presentation to you, Matt, as my potential client. I'm the one who is going to work with you. Yeah. So I think we should all be reassuringly expensive, as are the large consultancies, because people value what they pay for. Yeah. And they tend to think that the more they pay, the better they get. Yeah. So I always advise my clients to price well. I advise them to price as the big four if they are that quality. Yeah. And then talk about all the advantages of you being a client to us. Yeah. We are not one of the big consultancies. So for us, you will be a very special client, and we will treat you like a king or a queen. Yes. And what you see is what you get, etc. So I do believe nowadays firms are willing to pay as good rates to boutiques. And what holds boutique back on pricing tends to be the individuals feeling they're not worth that money. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that hugely. It comes down to confidence, and again, a little bit of that imposter syndrome, especially in those circumstances. We recently worked with a client who told us up front that they were more expensive than the big consultancies, and I loved that. They owned it, and they were being very successful doing it as well. So that's great to hear. So, Marcia, I'm told that you've worked with over 60 firms across multiple sectors when it comes to your advisory, your mentorship. Are there any universal growth strategies that you've found to be effective, regardless of which flavor of consultancy we might be dealing with?
I mean, first of all, be clear about what you're trying to achieve. I find it, I'm sure you have the same experience, Matt. It's really amazing how many firms we still come across that don't know what they're trying to achieve. Yeah. So that clarity, and for example, if it's an exit, what is the time horizon? For how much money? Are all our shareholders or main shareholders aligned? There's so much to gain from just being clear about what you're trying to achieve. And I have a little thing here on my board that I like to refer to. It's a quote, and it's there are two types of journeys. One with a purpose and a wonder. Okay, so one you're trying to get from here to here, and the other you're just going all over the place. Yeah, both of them have a route, but only one has a clear destination. And I think if you don't have that clear destination, what is it that we're here for? What are we trying to achieve? You know, forget the rest. It's very hard to succeed. That's number one. Number two, a clear plan to then achieve, because you may be clear about that, but you're all over the place. And I do believe in annual plans, very structured annual plans. We say what we're going to do and we monitor that we're doing it and we do it. So I really like the formality that a board brings to any SME to help with that. Clarity of destination. Let's have a plan. Let's monitor progress against the plan, etc. I love that. And I'm sure you're going to like to hear this, because I don't think any business will succeed unless they have a very clear proposition. And again, I find amazing, you know, I come across businesses that have been operating 10, 15, 20 years, and still they don't know what they're selling, what exactly is their key products or key services, which clients they're targeting, etc. And you need to be in a market that has opportunities. And again, sometimes you just, you know, you come across a business is struggling, and they're struggling despite the fact of having a clear place they want to be, a clear proposition. It's because they're in the wrong market and they just sit there and they don't move. Oh, but we've always worked in this place, you know, in this space. We don't even know how to go there. But you're just kind of wasting your years here, isn't it?
Yeah, people staying in a situation of struggle because they're just too scared to try anything else or go with that. And yes, of course, the proposition thing is incredibly important. And Marcia, I guess the growth strategy that you mentioned earlier that worked for you was, of course, when you set up your first board in your health consultancy. What advice would you give to anybody that's looking to perhaps form their first board in a way that adds value rather than just adding to the bureaucracy that they might need to suffer?
Yeah. First, keep it simple. It's called a board, but it doesn't need to be anything complicated. But mean it. You're trying to bring some new governance into your outfit. Mean it. So don't bring family and friends in the boardroom to start with. That's not, family and friends are not going to help you. They are going to be your family and friends. Bring proper advice, non-executive directors, bring real external people to challenge and support your thinking and your growth journey. Make sure you meet regularly. Yeah. I tend to recommend a few hours once a month, you know, and then make sure you're clear about the governance arrangements, how all this is going to work. I have helped about 24 companies start their board. And I always start with the same thing, a piece of paper, a document that is the way we are going to be governed. And it starts with what are the reserved rights that the founders, main shareholders, whatever we call them, want to have. Yeah, because one reluctance founders have of creating a board is loss of control. Yeah, so they can from the outset say, I don't want the board to make a decision on this, and this. This is my decision. Yeah. So when the board starts, whoever comes to the board knows that this people have reserved these rights for themselves. Now, what we then want the board for, and let's be very clear what the role, the responsibilities of the board is going to be. Then let's be very clear about the role and responsibility of the CEO, of the CFO, of everyone else. Yeah. So for me, just that clarity in the beginning is really, really helpful.
Yeah, clarity is so important, isn't it? And that's come through in a few of the things that we've discussed today. Marcia, if you were starting again, if we look back to when you first got involved in your health consultancy, and we think about those early stages, what advice would you give to yourself in that instance, in that moment?
I would absolutely get a mentor. And I mean a mentor, not a coach, to start with. And make sure I learn as much from that mentor as possible. And if you can combine a mentor with a coach, even better. But get someone that has done it before to be your partner. Yeah, meet with that person an hour, 2 hours a month, and talk about how you're going about things, what you're doing, hear their experience, their thoughts, listen to advice. If you choose the right person, you can avoid a lot of the pitfalls. So I would absolutely start with that. But as early as I possibly could, I would start a board. I have seen the benefit a board brings to startups. One of the companies I started working with last year, we already have 15 million of revenues. We never had a board, okay? And my goodness, if this business had had one, because it's a beautiful business as it is, but it's being a bit all over the place to get there. And I can only imagine where they might have been if they had done things differently. I think a board, even in a startup, can make a huge difference. So I think these are the two things. They were key things that made a huge difference to me and that I know make a huge difference to others.
Incredible. Marcia, we've reached that time in the interview when we talk about our recurring feature, which is snog, marry, avoid. It's not what you think. The snog is, what is a quick win that you would recommend installing into your business today to make some great impact?
I'm trying to avoid talking about AI, but it's impossible. Absolutely embrace it. The damn thing is marvelous. See it as an opportunity, not a threat. 100%.
Yeah, we've covered that so much on this podcast as well. It does come up. We cannot escape it. Do embrace it. It's not going anywhere, is it? Let's face it. The marry element, Marcia, is something that you would install in your business for the long term. We've talked about that long-term view. What is something you absolutely couldn't live without in business?
People I enjoy working with. Because the journey is tough. Yeah. Never mind what people say. Entrepreneur's life is not easy. It's hard work. It's ups and downs. It's very challenging. And you have to enjoy the journey as you go. So I think working with people you respect and enjoy, really, really important. And this is why I still work, because I work with people I love working. And for me, it's fun,
You get to make that choice. We spend so many hours in our business. We have to enjoy it, don't we?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good one. I love that. And the last thing then is avoid. What would you ditch to make your business better? What are the things that you see perhaps people don't need, perhaps rely on as a crutch in their business that you think they need to get rid of?
Be nice.
Oh, really?
I think too many leaders, too many cultures are too nice. And I think that's to the detriment of the business and people's careers. And I don't mean be unkind. Be kind, of course. But be honest. Have open relationships, transparent. Give honest feedback. Tough love kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I, yes, there is a danger that in being nice, we are all nice and we hold the business back. So I completely embrace the private equity saying, what is it? Hire slowly and terminate fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you have people that are not working well, it's bad for them, it's bad for you, it's bad for the culture, etc. Just deal with it. So surround yourself with good people and don't be too nice, be kind, look after people's well-being. But yes.
Say what needs to be said. Yeah, I
Mm.
love that. Wonderful advice, a wonderful interview. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today, Marcia. And yeah, we'll see you again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Matt. Nice to see you.